at 5.
At age 5.
And he watched his brother die in front of him.
Do you remember how you found out?
The Valentine that I had made David. And I was just like 5 years old and holding it. But Reed and David are the twins. And so I grew up with them and was super close.
Super close. 12 years older and you guys are super close.
Yeah. And David died because we were all living together. So like when I think about my childhood, David died when I was 5 years old. So I don't have a ton of memories, unfortunately. But it was just like me and Reed and my mom. That's the surviving twin.
What kind of stuff were you experiencing in home with your mom and your dad?
I unfortunately didn't know anything different. Like, it was icy. I never saw any affection. There was a lot of disdain for each other. We lived in a big house that was like very long. It would be like on opposite ends of it, basically. And to their credit, I think that they tried. And they tried for me, and especially after David died and my brother Reed really started struggling. I think that the damage after that was irreparable after losing a child.
Mm-hmm.
But they did try in their own ways. But it was like, I'm so grateful that I'm here and I wouldn't change it for the world, but it's like I look at that as like, that was probably a marriage that never should have happened. Just because they're so different. Like, and it's not like a different, like, complimentary way. Like, it's just, like, you are just... And there's a lot of affection there. And you spend 20 plus years with someone because they were married for a long time. And they got through the divorce. And they're friendly now.
How old were you when they got divorced?
15.
15?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's when I had emancipated myself as well.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Let's go back.
Yeah.
So your brother dies...
At 5.
At age 5.
I'm age 5. He's 17. He dies on They went to a school in Chattanooga. They were on the rowing team. They were both super athletic, very artistic. I mean, they were like the most well-rounded guys. They're both brilliant, incredibly artistically talented. Like, I have my own creative talents. Like, I can't draw for crap. And they were both, brilliant, but also brilliant at math. Like, my brother Reed had a perfect SAT score. Just so well-rounded, incredibly athletic. They were on the rowing team. Just good guys. And out of nowhere, David had a cardiac arrest and fell off the rowing machine right in front of Reed. So they were 17 years old, identical twins. They never had that, like, separation that, like, psychologically twins have to go through. And if you're not a twin, like, I don't even think I can understand what that feels like. But I've talked to enough twins now, and I've talked to Reed, 17. I think this is we're going into the 18th year since David has died. So he's now been gone longer than he was here. And I've spent enough time talking with Reed throughout that period of, like, they were still one person. They had done everything together. And he watched his brother die in front of him. There were no defibrillators in the gym. There was nothing anybody could do. He was basically dead on sight. And it was Valentine's Day in 2007. And yeah, it was, that changes the family forever. And there were so many different, it's like grief is such a patchwork, like a quilt, in my opinion, because everybody's perspective and journey is different. My mom's journey was completely different than my dad's. This is not my dad's biological son. He never adopted my brothers. They had it was very tense. Like, the week before David died, my dad and David had a huge blowout. David even went to my mom that week and was like, "Why are you still in this marriage? Like, this doesn't work." I think she had a ton of regret over that. And so my dad's journey was completely different. I think just because he wasn't their biological father, he had spent 14 years with them. Mm-hmm. It was very different than my mother's. Reed's journey as a identical twin was completely different, something that none of us could ever understand. My older brother, Chase, had a completely different journey that I don't even think I really know much about. He's military. He's like, closed case, done. And he was far away at the time he was in college. Then mine was completely different than anybody else's because I didn't know him. it did. Like, I have these memories of things we would do together, and we would wake up on Saturdays and he would make me waffles and we'd go like ride in the car together and that kind of thing. But my grief was like growing up and everybody has all of these memories with this person and you don't.
Do you remember how you found out?
Yeah, so it was Valentine's Day. I got a phone call from the school. And again, that's like my mom is I truly think it's one of the best things she's ever done in terms of raising us. She was so honest. There was no hiding anything, which I think in the world of helicopter parenting and trying to protect your kids and kind of putting them in this glass box, like that's become very abnormal, and people would look at our life and be like, why would you not shield them from this? But I'm very glad that she didn't. But it was just like, looked at me and went, David's collapsed. We need to go to like, put down your Valentine's. We were like having a Valentine's Day party and we have to go. And I remember getting in the car and I had like the Valentine that I had made David. And I was just like 5 years old and holding it. Oh God, I haven't talked about this in so long. So I watched all of it. We got to the school as he was being put in the ambulance. We went to the hospital and I had like a nurse take me out as they were, talking about what was going on, and they had no idea what happened. I was wearing lime green clogs, and I remember because we were there until very late. I was walking through the halls of the hospital. I could hear my like Hannah Anderson clogs like clomp through the hospital hallways. It's like funny the things you remember. And they were in like a very dark, purpley room. And I have no idea what happened. They think it's some kind of like epigenetics of something, environmental happened. We have genuinely no idea at the time. Nothing came of the autopsy. We all immediately, especially Reed, we came to Nashville and went to Vanderbilt. They have one of the best pediatric cardiology programs in the country, probably the best. Hundreds of tests to figure out, was there any risk for Reed? And there was nothing. Nothing. And David always drank Red Bulls in the morning. He would drink like 2 Red Bulls a day. He would drink one on the way to school, and my mom would always kind of like, David, you probably shouldn't drink that. And he would be like, Mom, everybody's drinking them. But she just said there was like a gut feeling of, I don't think this is good for you. And she asked the doctor at the time, like, do you think this like his caffeine intake? Like what? Like we have no answers. What could have happened for a completely fit, no chronic illness, no history of anything, collapse and die within 15 minutes? When you have an identical twin brother standing here with no problems, who still to this day doesn't have any problems, never had any scares or anything. And she was like, could it have been, let's talk about my mom was very matter of fact of like, let's figure it out. Like what happened? We need to, obviously like prevent this from happening to any of the other kids. She brought up the Red Bull and they like laughed at her. And last year a study came out from the last 10 years about the cardiac effects of drinks like Red Bull.
Shit.
And so that's just like one thing. But again, they threw around something called long QT, which is a rhythmic condition, which I go in for like EKGs and testing. We all do. I don't know if Chase still does, but every 5 years or so, we'd go in and I'd get routine testing, and they noticed something a few years ago. So I came back up to Vanderbilt. We did all of that, but it was nothing worth really addressing. But I monitor my caffeine intake for that reason. I kind of always, I look for like defibrillators in rooms at gyms and that kind of stuff. But nothing serious. But that long QT, that was just kind of a shot in the dark of like, maybe it was that. And that can be just spurred by environmental things. So yeah, that's completely out of the blue.
What did the Valentine say?
I think it was just Happy Valentine's Day. Like, love Brett. To David with a little heart. It was a lollipop. It was one of those ones you get at the store where you have the little note that like sticks up on it. I still have it.
You still have it?
Oh, yeah.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.